Hello, I thought I'd do something a little bit different this time. As you may be aware, the full list of cards for Smash Up Marvel was released over the weekend. It's a set that's been plagued by delays due to COVID and other kind of international shipping issues, so some people have received their copy of Smash Up Marvel this month. I know that it's been delayed again, I think, until early February for the actual release, so lots of people won't have received it, but I think because someone has received it, they posted pictures of all the factions onto the wiki, so we do now have a complete list of cards, and I've generally been staying quite clear of the leaks and spoilers for Smash Up Marvel, so this is something, okay, I had a brief look at the pictures, but as you can see, the picture quality isn't very good. You can't really tell what's on the pictures. You have to kind of really squint and zoom in, and even then it's not that clear. So I kind of had an initial look at the pictures, but not really in any detail. So this will generally be, um, a first look for me as well. So I thought it'd just be a good idea to go through each of the factions. So that's what I'm going to do today, just get my initial thoughts and reactions about each of the factions. So um, obviously there's going to be spoilers here for Smash Up Marvel. It is all over the place now on the internet, so you may well have already seen it anyway. But so let's start with the Avengers. So first off the bat here, we've got Black Widow, Power 5. Now the Avengers are obviously going to be a superhero or a princess-esque style faction with lots of big minions and mainly actions, but Black Widow, destroy a character here of Power 5 or less. Now that is very strong. That's effectively a Ninja Master. Most of the game is Power 5 or less characters. Obviously you can buff things, so it's not quite as good as Ninja Master, but that is a very strong ability. If you think about the superhero faction or the princess faction, apart from Eliza, the abilities are generally powered down just to kind of compensate for the power, but that's a very strong on-play ability. Captain America Power 5 talent, give each of your minions, or characters currently here, +1 power until the end of the turn. That's kind of boring, I suppose. I think that's exactly the same as Captain Amazing for the superheroes. I think it is. I think Captain Amazing gives every minion +1 power at that base until the end of the turn. If so, I don't really know how I feel about that, because Captain Amazing is the spoof card, so they gave Captain America the exact same ability as the spoof of it. That feels kind of lazy, unless they deliberately did that to try and spoof the spoof. I'm not really sure, but yeah, that's just a carbon copy of Captain Amazing. Hawkeye, draw 3 cards, discard 2 cards, that's solid. Card draw is always nice. Drawing 3, you discard 2 of the cards in your hand, so you'd always discard the 2 worst cards in the situation. That's just a solid Power 5 drop. Hulk, this character gains +2 power until the end of the turn. It's a King Rex, basically. Not quite as good. Talent is slightly different to the raw power of the minion, but it's effectively a King Rex. You're going to use this talent every single turn. Iron Man, move this character to one of your other characters here to another base. It's similar to Scoundrel for the Astro-Knights. That's a solid card. In a faction like this where you don't have many minions, an ability like this where you can move one minion and another minion isn't overly useful, because you've got so few minions anyway. It's unlikely that you're going to be have lots of opportunities to use this talent to its full potential. But it is always nice to be able to move things around. As you say, as you can move it from one base to another. If you maybe someone else is targeting a base, you can sweep it out from nowhere and just, with Iron Man and another 5 power minion, and drop 10 power, and then steal the base from them, for instance. 4, search your deck and discard power for Mjolnir. I think that's how you pronounce it. Reveal it and draw it, shuffle your deck if you searched it, move Mjolnir from one character to another, so we'll come to that when we see it, but at the minute, vanilla Power 5 with a talent, or Power 5 with a talent that can move Mjolnir around. Avengers Assemble, shuffle up to 2 characters from your discard pile into your deck. That's okay, I suppose. For a faction that doesn't have a lot of minions, you do want ways to recover them, so having 2 copies of this card is very useful. Shuffling them in, though, isn't very good. Ideally, you'd want them to the top of the deck or into the hand. That's obviously going to be too good for minions of Power 5, but shuffling them in when you don't have a lot of minions means you're unlikely to draw them, and especially when you actually need them as well. So you could be drawing through quite a lot to actually find minions again, so it's not great, but it's always good to have ways to shuffle minions back in. Cap Shield. Character modifier, so play on minion. Your characters here are not affected by the player's actions. That's decent. If the card is on Captain America, they also have +1 power each. Okay, I really like that, actually. So they've got items or actions that kind of key off each of the... Let's just Hawkeye's Iris. Yes, they've got actions that key off each of the Avengers. That's really cool, actually. I do quite like that. And that's a solid ongoing ability, not affected by other players' actions, and +1 power each turn. So combined with Captain America, the +1 power, +2 power each turn. Again, if you're thinking about superheroes, that's similar to um, what's the action called? Justice Friends, where give each of your minions +2 power until the end of the turn. So you basically got that inbuilt in Captain America and Cap Shield. So I like that. I like that a lot, actually. Hawkeye's Arrows reveals cards from the top of your deck until you reveal 2 actions. Draw the actions and shuffle the rest into your deck. If Hawkeye's in play, you may play the drawn cards as extra actions. Wow, okay. So that's really good. Reveal 2 cards from your deck until you reveal 2 actions. That's the same as Fetch I Know Not Want for Russian Fairy Tales, which is a very solid card, especially in a faction with really good actions. Not only that, but if Hawkeye's in play, you can play the drawn cards as extra actions. That's incredible. Ideally, you'd want some way of being able to stack your deck or look through your deck in advance so that you know what actions you're going to hit, or to manipulate your deck so that you can choose 2 specific actions you want to be able to play as extra actions. But that's really, really good. Playing the 2 cards as extra actions, yeah, I like that. Hulk Smash. Choose a base, destroy any number of base modifiers on it. If Hulk is there, you may destroy the base and all its modifiers and replace it with the top card of the base deck. All characters remain on the new base. That's the same as Not in Kansas from Tornadoes, basically. I mean, that's okay. It's always good to have a wide variety of effects in a faction, so as we've already seen, they've got power gain, minion recovery, they've got extra action plays, or action draw, and now as well destroying any number of actions on a base, and destroying the base if needs be. Destroying the base is a bit random. It's not necessarily something you'd want to do, even if you've got Hulk in play. You might not choose to do that. You're just mainly using this to destroy the base modifiers. So think of those factions like Ancient Incas, Steampunks, Tricksters, other factions like that that rely on their play on base actions. So being able to get rid of all of those on a particular base is very strong, especially when you've got Hulk anyway, which is a 7 power minion. So that's very good. Jarvis. Talent, draw a card, discard a card. Okay. So we've already seen this a little bit in Hawkeye, where you can draw 3 cards, discard 2 cards. We haven't yet seen anything that really synergizes internally in the faction around discard synergy. So, I mean, it's always good to draw a card. So it's basically just draw a card every turn, discard your worst card every turn. But if the faction doesn't necessarily have any kind of internal synergy around discarding cards, then you don't always want to be doing this. But it is an interesting card draw engine, and if there is no internal synergy, then you can always pair it with something that does have synergy around discarding cards. Zombies is always a classic example of that. Here we go, Molnir. Ongoing, this card is on Thor, it has +2 power, otherwise it has -2 power. Okay, so it's transferable obviously with Thor. On Thor, it's just very boring. It's just exactly the same as Hulk. I'm not a big fan of that. But you do have the flexibility of being able to drop someone else's power by 2, which is always nice, and you can splash that around wherever you like each turn. That's a bit boring. It's probably my least favourite of the specific Avenger actions that we've seen so far. Modular Tech, move one of your modifiers from one character to another character, or from one base to another base, play an extra action. I mean, I suppose you can play one of your character modifiers, so for instance Cap Shield down on another minion or another character, and then move that using this card when you actually get Captain America and put Captain America into play. It gives you the extra action play, so it's not wasted, but I haven't really seen very much so far in terms of modifiers that you'd want to really move around. Yeah, I'm not. That's probably this is probably the weakest card we've seen so far, Modular Tech. It's not wowing me. It's just, I suppose, straightforward. It does what it says on the tin. Move one of your modifiers from one character to another, one base to another base. Yeah, they don't really have that many base modifiers either, or character modifiers, so this is probably a card more aimed at your partner faction here, really. And you're unlikely to play something like Cap Shield necessarily until you've got Captain America in play, or until you can play it onto Captain America. So yeah, quite a weak card, that one. Repulsor Boots, move one of your characters to another base. Special, you can play this before the base scores to move Iron Man. Okay. So, Moving one of your characters to another base, it's very vanilla, very basic. The fact that that's not the special isn't great either. The special is just limited to Iron Man, so that's not great either, because a lot of the time you may not even have Iron Man in play, or Iron Man may already be on the base that you want to break. So yeah, that's quite a weak special for me. I'm not overly impressed with that, because Iron Man's is a talent rather than like an ongoing effect, so you can't then cash in on Iron Man. If it was ongoing, for instance, you could move Iron Man and another minion at the same time, so you can kind of get double value from your repulsor boots, but no, I'm not a big fan of that. Strategize, look at the top 4 cards of your deck, place 2 of them on top of your deck and the rest on the bottom in any order. So you don't even get to draw 2 cards, so you're just literally rearranging the top of your deck from the top 4 cards. Look at top those 2. I suppose this is okay synergy with Hawkeye's arrows if you've got Hawkeye in play. You can look at the top 4. If there's a couple of actions there that you want to play, you can put them to the top and move the others to the bottom. It's not great though. For a 2-copy card, I don't really like that very much. It's quite weak, the fact that you don't draw any cards straight away, and the fact that you have to put 2 cards in the bottom. So for instance, if you look at the top 4 and there's 3 cards there that you really want, you then have to put one of them to the bottom, which you're unlikely to then see for, well, unless you can shuffle, which they don't have much shuffle. The only shuffle they've really got is Hawkeye's arrows and Avengers Assemble, so they've not got a lot of shuffle. So potentially put something good to the bottom, you might never see it again. So I'm not a big fan of that, especially as 2 copies. It's okay. I suppose you compare it with those factions that can manipulate the deck, like Granny's, for instance. You put 2 minions to the bottom, you use Matriarch to draw them straight off the bottom, but that's not a great card internally for the faction. That's probably more towards their partner faction. Tactical advantage, choose a character to gain +3 power until the end of the turn. That's solid, just a straight +3 power. Not really a whole lot to say there. There's nothing really that synergizes with gaining power. I suppose they all just appreciate gaining extra power. There's nothing there that has that kind of internal synergy with gaining power. Thunder and Lightning, destroy character of power 3 or less. Again, just solid. Quite boring, quite vanilla. Widow's Bite. Okay, so the final Avenger action. Before a base scores, other players' characters currently get -1 power until the end of the turn. That's pretty good, especially in a faction that doesn't have many minions. So you want to be dropping the power of other players if you can. If Black Widow is there, she gains +2 power until the end of the turn. It's a nice little upside. That's a very weak, like, you would probably just play this without Black Widow being there, whereas something like S.H.I.E.L.D, that's way better if Captain America's in play. Whereas Widow's Bite, okay, Black Widow gains +2 power at the end of the turn. That's only relevant if she's on the base that you're trying to break, or if the extra 2 power will break the base that she's on. So that's kind of weak, the extra effect for Black Widow being there. This card is mainly there for the -1 power until the end of the turn side of it. And I'm not really a big fan of that either, the +2 power until the end of the turn, because you've now got Black Widow, you've got Thor when he's got Mjolnir on him, you've got Hulk, you've got Captain America when he's got S.H.I.E.L.D on him. They can all get to 7 power and they can all push everything else to 7 power, so that just kind of feels a bit too many things doing the same thing. It just feels a bit boring to me. And it's very strong as well. I mean, it is boring, but it is fundamentally very strong. Being able to push the power up of your power 5 minions all the way up to 7, that's really, really good. So overall for this faction, I kind of get the vibes of very strong. There wasn't much that was weak there. Only really Jarvis. Doesn't have much internal synergy in the faction. Modular Tech and Strategize. I mean, they're all useful cards, but they don't really have masses of use in this faction particularly. Repulsor Boots as well, I didn't think was particularly great. It's just a standard move on your characters to the base kind of card. But in terms of the strength of the minions are very strong, and I really like the having an action specific to that minion as well. I like that kind of theme in the faction. But yeah, the minions are very good. I'm thinking if you think to something like the Princess is probably the most comparable faction. Okay, superheroes are obviously comparable because superheroes are playing on some of these cards. But the Princesses have 6 power 5s. Apart from Eliza, maybe Snow White, it would, if I had to make a faction with 6 minions, combining the minions and characters from this faction, it would probably be Eliza and 5 other cards from this faction. They all seem not quite as good as a regular King minion, but way better than, for instance, the Superheroes Power 5s or the Princess's Power 5s minus Eliza. So, yeah, this is quite a good faction, the Avengers. I suppose it's a good start to it. So up next, we've got Hydra. So Hydra, as you can tell from the picture there, they've got a lot of power 2s. So let's have a look to see what they do. So Red Skull. After one of your characters is destroyed, draw a card. Talent destroy one of your characters to draw a card. Okay, that's a pretty good engine. You're going to need a lot of internal synergy, and you've already got that in Red Skull, I suppose. You can, whenever Red Skull's out, you always draw 2 cards every turn by destroying one of your characters. Obviously, you can't rely on your opponent to be destroying your cards, so that's a useful draw engine. I quite like that. Baron Strucker, power 4, talent destroy one of your characters. After it's destroyed, move up to 2 of your characters from other bases to here. You're not going to be doing this every turn, but sometimes you will want to make a big power play for a particular base, and that's quite a useful movement card. Okay, you've got the downside of having to destroy one of your characters. I can see there's a common theme here of destroying one of your characters, so they're going to need to have a lot of recovery for these minions in order for this faction to really be, for that to be a really useful engine. Madam Hydra, power 4, talent, destroy one of your characters to give this character +2 power until the end of the turn. That's kind of weak, I suppose, because you're going to be destroying power 2 minion to give it +2 power. It's the same as basically having the power 2 minion on Madam Hydra's base anyway. I suppose it is useful extra push, so you can play your character and then also do the talent to then boost Madam Hydra's power on a base to potentially make a base breaking play when you couldn't usually reach that from a minion play. So again, it's kind of meh. It's okay, I suppose. Again, it's not one that you're going to be using every turn. It's just going to be on those critical turns to break the base. 3 Arnhem Zolas, power 2, ongoing this character's plus 1 power for each of your other characters here with a principal power of 2 or less. Okay, that's quite good. That's a very solid. So that's usually the power 3 minions, so the fact that you've got 6 Hydra agents means that's going to be excellent value in terms of the power of those minions. I can see this comfortably going to 4, 5, 6, even more power than that potentially, depending on the pairing as well. Obviously, you've got a lot of destroying your own things, so something like zombies could be a good synergy pairing here. And zombies as well have 7 power 2 minions in the Tenacious Seas and the Walkers, so I'm thinking already that could be a potentially very strong pairing. Hydra Agent power 2, ongoing this character. After this character is destroyed, play up to 2 extra characters of power 2 or less here. So that's obviously really good. It's extra plays, 2 extra plays when the character is destroyed, and we've already seen as well we've got other minions there, other characters there that want to destroy your own minions, so that's actually quite a good little bit of internal synergy there. You destroy your own minion, you play 2 extra minions, you destroy it with Madam Hydra, let's say, boost Madam Hydra to power 4, to power 6, sorry, play 2 extra power 2 minions, you've got 10 power when you originally only had 4 there, so, or had 6 there rather, with Hydra Agent already there, so I like that, and the fact that you've got 6 of them is quite interesting as well. There are some other potential synergies, so obviously Innsmouth is potentially quite a good one here. You've got lots and lots of power 2 minions, and you've got other factions as well that like to play power 2 minions. They are quite vulnerable, but then you don't really mind that. You don't really mind if these characters are destroyed, so I do quite like that. I like this little internal engine they've got going here. Fanatical Devotion, base modifier, ongoing your characters here, each have +2 power if one or more of your characters have been destroyed this turn. Wow, that's really good. That's obviously this is the kind of centerpiece of the faction, the big finisher. It's effectively Rotary Slug Thrower, with the downside that you do have to destroy one of your minions, but you can very easily do that with one of your Red Skull, Baron Strucker, or Madam Hydra. So yeah, that's a very good card. You want to be cycling this as much as you can. +2 power, I imagine you've got, 4 power 2 minions, which seems quite easy with the Hydra Agent's ability. You've got 16 power out of nowhere there, so I do like that. That's obviously a very strong card. Hail Hydra, destroy one of your characters to draw cards equal to its power. It's solid. It's essentially, I suppose, Red Skull's ability, because you're probably going to be targeting a Hydra Agent to draw 2 cards and play 2 extra minions of power 2 or less, so it's just a solid card. Not really too much to say about that one. 2 Hours of Destiny, search your deck for up to 2 characters of power 2 or less, reveal them, draw them, then shuffle your deck. Okay, that's obviously really good. The quicker you draw into these power 2 minions, the better. the more powerful Fanatical Devotion is going to be, the more plays you'll have from Hydra Agent being destroyed, so I do like that. Any faction that has this kind of internal synergy wants to draw into their best, or to the draw engine essentially as quickly as it can. Reactivate agents, play up to 2 characters of power 2 or less from your discard. Place up to 2 characters of power 2 or less from your discard pile into your hand. Again, that's really solid. I probably would have liked to have seen that in a 2 copy for this faction. Obviously, they want to be destroying the characters of power 2 or less over and over again. So, I suppose it might have been too strong if it was a 2 copy card. Just to put them directly into hand, you could put them on the top of the deck, I suppose, instead. But then probably one that places 2 into hand might be better than that. So, yeah, I probably would have liked to have seen this as 2 copy cards, because getting those power 2 minions back and usable again as soon as possible is what you really want to be doing. Secret Reserve, shuffle any number of characters. Oh, okay, so this is your kind of Reactivate Agents is your really good recovery card. Secret Reserves is your not so great recovery card, but in combination with Hour of Destiny, it's a really good engine there. So shuffle any number of characters of power 2 or less from your discard pile into your deck. Great, that's just what you want to be doing with this faction. 2 more shall take its place. Destroy one of your characters. After it's destroyed, play its 2 characters power 2 or less as an extra character onto that base. So that is the same as Hydra Agent's ability. I'm not a big fan of that, really. Especially in 2 copies, that seems very, very unnecessary. When you've got 6 Hydra Agents, and you've got the ability to destroy them fairly frequently, you're always going to have those 2 extra plays pretty much every turn, or whenever you really need them, so having 2 more cards that give you extra plays really seems quite unnecessary. But I suppose at a pinch, if you really need to combine Hydra Agent and another destruction and get more extra plays, so if you had like 3 or 4 extra plays in your hand of power 2 or less, I suppose in a pinch it could be quite useful. But I think with this card, 2 more shall take its place. It seems quite weak. I can't really anticipate too many situations where you'd need to use this in combination with destroying a Hydra Agent, or where you don't have a Hydra Agent in play and you need to do that. Again, I don't think it's very likely, so I don't like that very much. That seems like quite a weak card. But in general, this faction, they've got a decent engine, and obviously they're playing around this Fanatical Devotion for those big power plays. I'm kind of worried about, I suppose, their ongoing... Okay, they might get a base break, and a lot of their weakish minions might go to the discard pile, but then I'm kind of worried about their kind of ongoing potential to keep breaking bases. It's sort of a swarm faction, but then they don't really have a lot of drive or consistency to keep that engine going necessarily. They don't have a lot of actions that can... they've got a couple of recovery actions and a couple of draw actions, but it's not the best engine in the world, especially once you've used your first Fanatical Devotion. You really want to be drawing into that card as many times as possible, so it's quite unlikely that you'll be doing that. You really want to play into this heavily and pair it with a faction that can keep replaying Fanatical Devotion, or playing with a faction that doesn't mind being destroyed every single turn, so you can keep on using these talents. But apart from Red Skull, which is obviously the talent you want to be using over and over again, these 2 talents are very situational, and you're only really likely to use them every now and again for those specific base breaking plays. So yeah, I'm not necessarily a fan of these. Red Skull is certainly very, very strong though. So the 2 factions we've seen so far, Hydra, I'd say definitely weaker than Avengers. Avengers are certainly the standout faction so far. So on to the next one, we've got Kree. And Kree's a faction that I have looked at a bit more, because I focused a bit more on this faction when I was looking through the pictures. And my first initial thoughts about this faction were that they were a wizard replacement faction. So wizards, obviously in the core set, they focus on drawing cards and playing extra actions. And when I first read this faction, I was like, so why would you ever play wizards again? And you'll see what I mean in a second. So King Minion, now the first thing you notice, obviously they've got a standard power structure. So power 5, 2 power 4s, 3 power 3s and 4 power 2s. So that's a big tick ahead of the wizards, who obviously have that kind of skewed power structure. The printed power was nerfed on the wizards back in core set. So starting with Supreme Intelligence, ongoing after you play an action, one of your characters gains +1 power until the end of the turn. That's basically a weaker Odysseus from Mythic Greeks, where rather than it being a permanent power counter, it's just a temporary one until the end of the turn. It's still quite good though, because as you'll see, they have a lot of extra action plays, so you can potentially you use this character to buff another minion, 2, 3, 4 times in a turn, which is a decent free buff. Minerva, power 4, draw 2 cards, that's just really, really solid. This is a game where you want to draw through your deck quickly. There's no downside to drawing through your deck, so the faster you can do that, the better. And a power 4, draw 2 cards, great. There's no downside to that, really. You've got 3 Ronin the Accusers, power 3, you may play an extra action. That's pretty much, well, I think that is exactly the same as Chrono Mage for the Wizards, except now you've obviously got 3 Ronin the Accusers, where you've only got 2 Chrono Mages for the Wizards. It's always good to play extra actions. Obviously, that plays into Supreme Intelligence. Kree Sentry, power 2, ongoing. This character has +2 power if you play 2 or more actions this turn. Okay, so that's really, really good. That's very likely to have, we haven't really seen much of the actions yet, but that's very, very likely to have 4 power. So you can literally drop your Kree Sentries onto one base, leave them, play 2 actions in a turn, buff them all up to full power, use Supreme Intelligence to push them over the edge, and you maybe got 18, 19, 20 power just from 4 Kree Sentries, so I really like that. This is kind of just in the minions so far, we've seen kind of a purpose, so Supreme Intelligence and Kree Sentry, play your actions and actually have an end outcome to that, or have a result for that, which is obviously gaining power. Whereas if you think, you compare them to the Wizards, what's the outcome of their extra actions? It's just literally to support another faction, because they don't really have any end outcome. Wizards don't gain power from playing extra actions. They don't lower the breakpoint of bases for playing extra actions. They don't have an end goal or an outcome from that, whereas you can clearly see already from these 4 minions that, or these 4 different minions, that they have a clear end goal. It's drawing cards, extra actions, and then buffing up your minions with playing those extra actions. So let's move on. Battle Rage, 2 copies, one of your characters gains +2 power until the end of the turn, draw a card. Again, we've seen cards that just literally give one of your characters +2 power until the end of the turn. They don't necessarily have the draw a card whacked onto the end of it, so that's just a nice addition. Just a solid card. Cover backup, draw 2 cards. Again, that's just the same as Mystic Studies for the Wizards, draw 2 cards, although they've obviously only got 1 copy of it. It Begins, one of your characters gains +1 power until the end of the turn, draw a card, you may play an extra action, so that bundles in all the things basically. If I had to pick one card then so far that summarised the Kree, it would be this card. Gain extra power until the end of the turn, draw a card, and play an extra action. So that's just a really solid, definitely a card that you'll play at the start to kind of build into that chain of extra actions and extra power. Prepare to engage, reveal the top 5 cards of your deck, place up to 2 revealed actions into your hand, and shuffle the rest into your deck. Solid. It's weaker than the Hawkeye's arrows that we saw for the Avengers, but it's just a solid card. Reveal the top 5 cards of your deck. You're very likely to have at least 1, if not 2 actions in the top 5 cards of your deck. Obviously, this faction's a standard faction, so 10 and 10. You pair it with another standard faction, 10 and 10, split between actions and minions. Half your deck is actions, so statistically, in theory, in a perfect world, you should hit 2.5 actions off this card, so you'll always hit. You'll be unlucky, I suppose. Probably better to say that. You'll be unlucky not to hit, depending on what you've played, obviously. Proven methods, place up to 2 actions from your discard pile on top of your deck in any order. That's really good. We've seen action recovery where it shuffles into the deck, but placing 2 on top of your deck is great because obviously it synergizes with the last card we've seen, Prepare to Engage, but you'll then also immediately draw back into them. And we've seen already, so for instance, It Begins would be a great one to put back to the top of your deck. It gives you card draw, extra action play, and another power. We might see another good action in a minute, so that's really good. I like that recovery. Relentless Attack, character modifier, talent, play an extra action. Okay, so that's really, really good. You can slap on basically an Archmage ability onto any character. So yeah, that's excellent. Even if you put that onto anything, for instance, even a Kree Sentry, you can just slap on Archmage's talent onto anything and get that extra action play. And doing that every turn is obviously going to be really important for building into Kree Sentry and Supreme Intelligence, because you only need to play 2 or more actions, so it's just your standard action and this. So basically you put Relentless Attack into play, you can always activate those Kree Sentries as long as you can keep up a steady chain of actions, which obviously with Prepare to Engage you definitely can. You can help to keep actions in your hand. Righteous Fury, character modifier, ongoing, this character has +3 power. Okay, that's excellent. Again, another decent, and that's a permanent power increase as well. We saw in Avengers. Let's have a quick look. We saw tactical advantage gain +3 power in a turn. So this is obviously a straight upgrade on that, basically. So that's very solid, and the fact they've got 2 copies of that again just means you can buff up the power of these already quite decent minions. And then finally, speed up, play up to 2 extra actions. Again, great card, it's just timely for the wizards. So yeah, my first thoughts when seeing this faction were basically, why would you ever play the wizards again? You have pretty much the same, you've got decent card draw a card, draw 2 cards, draw a card, draw 2 actions. You've got your Minervas, draw 2 cards. You've got your play extra actions, Ronin the Accuser. You've got the Archmage talent there, 2 extra actions. So you've got your extra actions, you've got your card draw, but you also have a really good power engine as well that is facilitated by those minions and these actions. So it has that end product. So why would you ever play Wizards again? That was my first thought from seeing this faction. Obviously, I haven't played with Smash Up Marvel, so I don't necessarily know the slight nuances of where you might play Wizards, but in general, it always seems to me now that if you have the option to pick either Kree or Wizards to partner a specific faction, you should always choose the Kree, because they seem like a strict upgrade of Wizards, and it seems like a losing play to pick the Wizards now. Obviously, Wizards have certain cards, and Kree have certain cards that aren't replicated, but in general, they do the same things. The themes are the same. You've got draw power and extra action plays. Wizards give you some extra minion plays, but Kree give you a standard power structure and lots of extra power gains. So for me, it's a no-brainer. When I saw Kree, I was like, yeah, they're just a strict upgrade of Wizards. So yeah, Kree, they seem amazing. They seem different enough to Mythic Greeks, but they swallow up the Wizard spot, basically. So yeah, I like the Kree. I think they're very strong. Next up, we've got Masters of Evil. Ulysses Claw. Nice little, very different from the. I mean, I'm not big on Marvel, to be honest. I've only really seen the MCU films, but it seems very different from the Ulysses Claw that I remember. But anyway, draw a card for every 4 VP you have. Okay, that seems quite good, but let's get into it. So, Baron Zemo, after the space scores, gain 1 VP and place the character in the bottom of its owner's deck. Wow, okay. That's really, really good. After the space scores, gain a straight VP. There's no conditions on that. There's nothing to say that you have to have X number of power or X number of minions. It's just a straight gain of VP, as well as whatever VP you gain from the base. So, yeah, that's really, really good. That's Invader level good, even. And the fact that you place it on the bottom of the deck instead of the discard pile can be advantageous. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. You potentially try and pair this up with a faction that can access the bottom of the deck, or even just shuffle the deck and get Baron Zemo back quickly. So, excuse me, yeah, I like that. That's very, very strong. Ulysses Claw, we just saw that, draw a card for every 4 VP you have. That's really interesting. I like this. I like this mechanic based on VP. It's not something we've seen before. Now that I've seen it, I kind of want more of it, with more factions that do this, but it's one of those things where the later you play this card, the better it is. So if you play it after you've got 12 VP, obviously you're drawing 3 cards, and we've seen Minerva from the Kree, which is a powerful draw 2. I mean, that's really, really good, but this can be even better. So I like this. It punishes you for playing it early, and it rewards you for playing it late, and I quite like that kind of building into the game. Okay, if you play it on the first turn, it sucks. Like, you don't want to be playing this when you're not drawing any cards at all, but it's a really interesting mechanic. I like that. Black Mamba, power 3, ongoing as characters +1 power for every 4 VP you have. Again, I just like that. It's really, really interesting. In the early game, it's not very good, but as the game progresses and you get more VP, it gets better. So I can very easily see this card having 4, 5, and then up to 6 power for if you've got the 12 VP. That's really, really good, playing these down for that. So it's one of these things where it's like a win more style faction by the looks of this. It's if you're already winning or close to winning, these cards get really good and just help push you over the finishing line. So yeah, it seems quite win more. I don't know how good this faction will actually be in reality, but we'll have to wait and see. Absorbing Man, power 2, talent, destroy this character and another Absorbing Man to gain 1 VP. Wow, okay. Would you give up 2 power 2 minions to gain a VP? Absolutely, yes. That's not really a massive downside, I don't think. Especially in a faction. I mean, we've already seen Hydra, where you can cycle through your power twos and draw into power twos. This would be a decent pairing even for the Hydra. So, wow, okay, we've already seen in just 4 minions, we've seen basically 3 victory points from Baron Zemo and 4 of these in the talents, destroying 2 of them. So, yeah, very, very good. I'm already liking where this is going. As a big fan of Invader and the Aliens, I'm already liking where this one's going. So, actions: importance at Doom. Playing a base with no player's characters. Special: when this base scores, if you have 1 or more power here, game 1. Whoa, okay. So they're really not slowing down. Have they learned nothing from the Aliens or the Invader? That just gaining lots of VP independently of other people isn't a good thing for the game? It's not interactive and fun, but it's great for those people like me who love it. Playing a base with no player's characters, that's going to be quite tricky. You have to, if you draw into this card late in the game, it could be a dead card in your hand. If you draw into it early, then it's great. All you have to do is play it down and then play your character down. Playing a base with no player's characters, when this base scores, you have 1 more power here again. Yeah, and it's not even based on having a minion there. So if you have 1 or more power, so you could feasibly do this through a Titan or through an action that gives you power. So yeah, that again, it just seems like a fairly easy way to get a victory point. 2 acceptable losses: destroy 1 of your characters at power 4 here to gain a VP. Oh my, how many cards are we going to see that say gain a VP? That's incredible. Again, this feels like I was wondering how good this faction is going to be. It seems like a win more faction, but they have lots of ways to gain VP early to get you into that win more position, maybe. So, yeah, 2 more cards that say gain a VP, and you know that's very easy. As soon as you get 4 VP, you can then target your Black Mambas with this card. So, yeah, this seems very, very good. Very, very strong faction so far, anyway. Okay, you're going to be quite minion starved. You're destroying a lot of your own characters, but if you're gaining lots and lots of VP, and you only really need, a couple of minions on a base to get second or third, you could very easily win the game. So, yeah, this seems very strong. Ball and Chain, character modifier, ongoing. This character has +2 power and cannot be destroyed by other players' cards. Solid. If you want to keep your Baron Zemo in play, for instance, and not let someone else destroy it before you can get the full value, just whack Ball and Chain on there. Just a solid card. Convergence, move 1 of your characters to another base. After it's moved, if you have 4 or more characters at base, gain a VP. Okay, so Convergence definitely favours this faction being a swarm faction. Move 1 of your characters to another base after it's moved. You have 4 or more characters. This is certainly the hardest condition we've seen so far to actually gain a VP. Because as we've already seen, you can basically count your absorbing mans out. You never want to have these in play. You always, as soon as you get a second one, you destroy it and gain a VP. So you've only really got 6 targets, and you definitely don't want to be hitting Baron Zemo, because you don't want to lose. Oh, sorry, no, what am I about? It's not destroying it, moving it. So, yeah, you've only got 6 minions. 4 of them then have to be on a base. I suppose you could do this prior to using 2 absorbing man talents. But yeah, this is quite tricky. This one is definitely one you have to build around with your partner faction. Gain the upper hand, destroy a character of power 3 or less for 2. I mean, it's okay. We've seen that in the Avengers. It's just a standard, fairly vanilla card. I don't know why they've got 2 copies of this card. Destroying other people's things don't really seem to be a theme for the faction. It's all about destroying your own things again, similar to Hydra. Indestructible form, base modifier, ongoing your characters here can't destroy other players' cards. Okay, it's a more universal, a more widely affecting ball and chain card, basically. It's solid. It could have been better. It could have been can't be affected at all by other players' cards, but we'll take what we can get, and we'll take the destroyed. They can't be destroyed. 1 Sonic Shockwave, destroy another player's characters with less power than your total power at its base. After it's destroyed, if that character has 5 or more power, gain a VP. Destroy another player's character with less power than your total power at its base. Okay, that's quite easy. After it's destroyed, if that character had 5 or more power, gain a VP. Okay, on the face of it, it seems really, really good. That's quite an easy condition to reach, destroying a character with less power than your total power at the base. Theoretically, you can play 2 power 3 minions and you can destroy almost anything in the game. So that's quite an easy condition to reach. After it's destroyed, if that character has 5 or more power, gain a VP. Again, another card that says gain a VP. Okay, this one again is slightly more difficult though. It's similar to Convergence. This one's going to be more difficult to pull off because there's not many characters of power 5 or more. Thankfully, it doesn't say printed power of 5 or more, because then that would restrict it even more. We've seen... Actually, no, okay, we've seen Kree, Hydra, and Avengers. Avengers are obviously, you can target anything, and it's a win-win. Hydra, they've got the Armin Zolas that increase their power. They've got the Madam Hydra. They've got the Red Skull. Kree, they've got potential boosts from their actions and their minions and supreme intelligence. So, in theory, from what we've seen so far, this isn't actually unreasonable if you're playing it in the Marvel sets. So, again, that's quite a reasonable, easy way to gain a VP. I'm actually very concerned about how good this faction seems to be at gaining VP. Like, invaders are off the chart. Like, aliens is off the chart in terms of how easy it is to gain VP independently of bases, where this faction seems to be at that level, if not better, and that's quite concerning because, especially if they've got things like card draw, yeah, that is a concerning how good this faction might actually be. World Domination base modifier talent. One of your characters here gains +2 power until the end of the turn. After this base scores, move this action to another base. Okay, you know, solid +2 power. It's sticky. It stays around. It helps to mitigate the loss of those absorbing mans. So, yeah, that's a great card for the faction. Really nice internal synergy there. But yeah, again, this is another very, very strong faction, and I'm a little bit concerned about 1 VP, gain 1 VP, that's twice basically, gain 1 VP, gain 1 VP twice, gain 1 VP, gain 1 VP, what was that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, did I count? Sonic Shockwave? I don't think I did. 9 cards that say gain 1 VP written on them, so almost half your faction can give you a VP, which is actually, it's more than 9 cards because of the absorbing mans, but in terms of the actual VP you gain, it's 9 VP from all your cards, which is insane. You know, you're only going to 15 victory points, so most of that can come from just your cards, which is incredible. So yeah, another faction that potentially is busted. Probably the best faction we've seen so far, I'm going to say. I think I'd probably go Masters of Evil, Kree, Avengers, and Hydra. Although the power level has been particularly high so far, I haven't really seen anything that I've thought is a bit of a dud. Most expansions have kind of a dud faction or weaker factions, whereas this so far has all been top end of the power level. So, S.H.I.E.L.D. next. Let's have a look, see what we've got. So, Nick Fury, you may play an extra character here. Okay, I can tell already this is the Swarm faction of the set, of the expansion, so that's just really good. There's no power restrictions to that. Just an extra character from hand. That can be anything, which is great. Maria Hill, ongoing after you play another character here. This character gains +1 power until the end of the turn. That's quite weak, unless we're going to see lots of ways of playing extra characters, in which case, if you get more than 2 off this, then it's a very, very strong card. So, Maria Hill, again, the fact that we've seen just Nick Fury and Maria Hill already tells me that they're going to have lots of extra character plays to play into these 2 cards. And I think in theory, Maria Hill could be the kind of the key king minion of the faction really here. It seems to be the big payoff. Agent Coulson, power 3, you may play character power 2 less. Here is an extra character, okay, that's good. We've already seen lots of factions, so Hydra, well, Hydra particularly have those extra power 2 minions, so this looks like already quite a good pairing for Hydra. Again, that's just a solid play. Plays into Maria Hill. S.H.I.E.L.D. Agent, power 2, ongoing if another one of your characters here, this character's +1 power, so that's Pinky basically for Mythic Horses, which again is decent. You know, giving a power 2 minion 1 extra power permanently is really good. You know, you've effectively increased its power by 1.5, which if you think to, you know, a power 4 minion, giving it +2 power, that's significantly harder to do. So buffing the power of a power 2 minion by 1 is surprisingly good, and I do like that. Obviously, as well, basically your Agent Coulsons say, you know, they play the power 2 minion, but it becomes a power 3 minion because you play them, play them together. So I like that. That's really good. Entry point, play an extra character. Okay, that's Nick Fury, solid. 2 mission debriefing, choose a base, draw a card for each of your characters there. Okay, well, we've seen that before. That's Tech Center. That's very, very good. Tech Center is very commonly a draw 3, 4, 5, even more cards than that sometimes. So yeah, mission debriefing, I like it. 2 proving grounds, talent, play a character. So it's a base modifier. Talent, play a character, power 3 less series, an extra character. Yeah, very, very solid. If we weren't sure that they had lots of ways of playing extra minions, they definitely do now. And that's something you can do every single turn. It's reminiscent of Enchanted Glen, I'm going to say, for Tricksters. Okay, Enchanted Glen you can play... Is it Enchanted Glen? I can't remember what the name is. It's the one where you can play an extra character, an extra minion every turn, basically. So, okay, this has the restriction power 3 or less, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. We've seen that their minions here are quite good for power 3 and power 2. And then obviously it combos well into things like the Hydra. Reassignment, choose a base, move 2 of your characters from other bases to there. Yeah, I mean, we've seen that before. It's just that's a decent movement card. It's better than your standard just move one minion from one base to another. Rescue mission after a base scores, shuffle all of your characters there into their owner's decks and draw a card. Okay, that seems a bit random. That's a decent effect, especially for a faction that wants to keep on chaining minions and using their extra minion plays, so it's always better that they go to the deck and discard pile. It would be even better if they went to the top of the deck, even better if they went to hand. Sadly, that would be way too good. But shuffling them into the deck is the next best thing. Draw a card, it just seems a bit random, but hey, we'll take it. Always good to draw cards, and this faction seems quite card draw starved. I think that's the first time we've seen draw a card. Superior firepower, destroy a base modifier or a character of power 3 or less. Okay, I like it. I like it a lot more than the ones that just say destroy a character of power 3 or less, because it's a little bit more versatile, it has more flexibility to the card, so that seems quite good. 1 times troop drop. Play a character of power 3 or less here as an extra character. I mean, play a character of power 3 or less as an extra character. I mean, that's just... What is the point of that card? They've got entry point, play an extra character. Why not just do 2 copies of entry point? I mean, that seems weird that that's in the faction as well. It seems kind of... Well, we can't really think of something else, so let's just do this and put power cap on it. Not a fan of that at all. 1 work together, each of your characters currently in play gains +1 power until the end of the turn. Okay, I mean, it's decent. It's just a solid +1 power, and we've seen how many extra plays they've got, so that could feasibly be +3, +4, +5, even more power than that. And it's universal, so it's not just on one base, it's in play in general. So you can potentially work towards a double base break, but that seems unlikely to happen in this faction. You're concentrating on one base at a time. So it just seems like a... I mean, this is all... There's nothing new here. We've seen all of this before, really, so this is just kind of your standard sort of swarm faction, like unlike Masters of Evil and Hydra. There's nothing really new that they're introducing with this faction, it's just a standard faction. I think if you're mixing this, it seems like a worse robots and mythic forces and other factions like that. They have slight differences, but they're always going to be a good partner. So S.H.I.E.L.D's always going to be a good partner for another swarm faction, but you definitely want... Oh no, sorry, that wasn't the first card that said draw a card. We've seen mission debriefing, which is Tech Center. So yeah, that's solid. So may even be a better robot potentially. I forgot all about that card. So yeah, just a solid swarm faction. So quite pleased with that. Again, we haven't yet seen a dud faction. So while that's great, I'm a little bit concerned about the power level of this expansion being ridiculously high. But we may yet see one, so let's see. Sinister Six. So let's see what we've got here. So Dr. Octopus, power 4. At the start of your turn, you reduce its base's breakpoint by 4 until the end of the turn. I mean, okay, it's a worse Wyvern from the Dragons, really. We need to see a lot of base breakpoint synergy in the faction for this to be really, really good. Mysterio, power 4, talent, draw, play a base modifier here as an extra action, or draw a card. Okay, so we're already starting to see, so this is a good little package here. No 1 king minion, but 2 very good king minions that play really well into each other. Drawing a card every turn is amazing, so if you don't have a base modifier in hand, you always just draw a card. This card is amazing. This card, not so much, but we may yet see more base breakpoint synergy. 2 green goblins, power 3, talent reduces its base's breakpoint by 3 until the end of the turn. Okay, so we're starting to see the package build together. So this faction is all about not necessarily power and not necessarily having lots and lots of minions, but dropping the base towards you. So getting away with being really efficient on breaking bases. Vulture power 3, you may place a base modifier from your discard power on top of your deck. Nice. This is what I think Gnome should be for the Tricksters, and this is what if I was redoing the Tricksters, this is what I would probably redo the Gnome as, rather than a terrible, terrible destruction card. I like that. We're almost certainly going to see a lot of base modifiers in this faction. Electro, I'm going this base breakpoint is reduced by 2. Wow, okay. This is a lot of base breakpoint reduction, so yeah. And that plays at the start of your turn. I was just looking back to Dr. Octopus and wondering why that's not a talent, but they're triggering it at the start of the turn rather than as a talent during the turn. I'm not sure why they've done that. We may see the answer to that, but let's carry on. Sandman, power 2, 2 copies. This character has +2 power if the breakpoint here is 19 or less. Okay, so it's a pseudo 4 power, because it's very likely that you're going to have bases at breakpoint of 19 or less. It's very unlikely that with all this base breakpoint reduction that you're not going to have it below 19. And there's a fair number of bases that have 19 or less anyway, so you just focus on those bases that have 20 or more. With any of these, even just Electro will capture a lot more bases. There's not many bases that have 25 or more, which would require, your Dr. Octopus and other cards as well, so that seems very feasible. That may as well just read this character as a vanilla power 4, which is great. 2 ambushes, reduce the base's breakpoint by 4 until the end of the turn. Again, that's nice. Not much more I can say about that. 1, cover the exit, space modifier, ongoing your characters here have +1 power after the space scores. If its breakpoint is 19 or less, shuffle up to into its deck. Okay, so we're starting to see the efficiency of the faction come through now. So you can feasibly use 1 or 2 minions, buff up their power, drop the basic power by loads, and then win a base potentially with really early before other players have had a chance to do anything. And then, it's an incredibly efficient way of breaking bases and winning the game. So we're starting to see that now with Cover the Exits and the extra effect, which you're almost always going to get. I can't see why you'd ever play this if you're not going to guarantee yourself that effect. Shuffling up to 2 of your characters here into their own decks. Have they got below? No, they've got 10 minions, so they're not minion starved, but that's just always nice. 1 Insight Panic. Base modifier, ongoing, other players' characters here have -1 power. If the breakpoint here is 19 or less, other players... Oh, okay. They can't use special abilities while this base is scoring. We've seen this once before with Mindraker for Super Spies. I think it's just once before. I can't think of any other card that stops the use of specials, and that was really good. Especially if you're... Obviously, you've got to play into a faction that doesn't have specials before it scores, and I think this is the strength of this card compared to something like Mindraker. If you're playing against a pairing that doesn't have any specials, then Mindraker is a dead card, but this card has a second use, which is your other characters have -1 power, which is really good. We've seen that on, for instance, Sleep Spores from Killer Plants, which just says other players have characters have -1 power. And I think, just thinking about that now, we've started to see, I think the power level of this expansion is because they're using existing cards but bundling them up with another effect. If you reach some kind of criteria, and that's why I kind of feel the power is very, very high on these on this expansion, because you can quite easily achieve these extra effects. Like having that breakpoint of 19 or less is very feasible, because we've already seen a lot of breakpoint reduction, and most bases have 19 or less, or are close enough where just even, for instance, an Electro will get it below. So yeah, that seems very easy to do, and that's a very strong effect. That can be crippling against some factions that rely on those specials. Again, case in point is ninjas and the use of the shinobis. So yeah, I'm a big fan of that. It's quite scary. I mean, the power of this expansion, it makes me quite nervous. But again, I've not played with them, so I don't know fully yet. But we'll see. Let's carry on. Move the goods. Move a base modifier from one base to another. It's not great. It's not really worthy of an action. However, special, you may play this after a base scores. Okay, so you can keep your Insight Panic alive, for instance, which is very good. And looking ahead, they've got lots and lots of base modifiers to come, so this is a very good card. Purely because of that special. So you're very unlikely to use that when it's not used for the special purpose. My Master Plan, base modifier, talent, if the breakpoint here is 19 or less, draw a card. Solid. It's effectively just a rock star with a slightly different breakpoint number. But yeah, draw power is always nice, and I think we've seen draw power in every faction. So draw power is always really good. The faster you can draw through your deck and draw into your strategy, the more likely you are to execute that strategy and then go on to win the game. And we've seen draw power be used as a way of nerfing factions. So, for instance, Mad Scientist off the top of my head, Pirates off the top of my head have no draw power. Zombies, pseudo draw power, it's probably not a good example, but they've used draw power as a way to mitigate very, very good factions in the past. And we've seen draw power for every faction so far, so again, red flags, but let's carry on. Pressure from all sides, base modifier, talent reduces base's breakpoint by 1 for each character on it until the end of the turn. Yeah, decent enough. Again, it just plays into this base breakpoint reduction, which again, this is a new thing, so I do like this as well. We have seen some base reduction in the past, so I mentioned Wyvern, but it's never been on this level where the whole strategy is around base breakpoint reduction, so I do like this. This is interesting. To reroute the power, base modifier, talent, if the breakpoint here is 19 or less, give one of your characters here +3 power until the start of your turn. Yeah, great. Again, you're never going to play this unless you can have that effect, so it basically just says every turn give a character of your choice +3 power, which is great. Witness our superiority, base modifier, ongoing. This base's abilities are cancelled. Okay. I haven't checked the bases, so I probably should do that at some point, but I'm guessing there's some nasty base abilities in this expansion, so, I mean, I've got so many bases already, this card will get a lot of value anyway, but, yeah, it's a bit of a random one, this one. It's certainly one of the weaker cards of the faction, in that you may never want to play this. There may never be a base where you need to cancel the abilities, but it can be quite swingy. So think of those factions that play into maybe a VP gaining base, for instance, Tsar's Palace or Fields of Honor for Bear Cavalry, for instance, where if you destroy a minion you gain a VP. So if you cancel that ability, the power of that faction drops away, the power of any faction that can use that drops away. So yeah, this is a nice addition to the faction. It's a nice part of the kind of toolbox, I suppose. You don't want it to be all streamlined and all one thing. You want a variety of effects, and that's just a nice playing into that effect. So yeah, a different, interesting faction. Again, it seems really strong, and I'm a bit concerned that, okay, it might not seem strong in relation to some of the other factions. So playing against Kree, for instance, this might seem okay. I'm a bit concerned maybe about the mixing existing factions from the main game with this, and actually this just blows them away. But we'll wait and see on that, I suppose, when it comes to actually playing them. But I suppose I'm kind of getting that vibe that I haven't seen anything that's really been particularly weak so far. Everything's kind of had its strength. There's been odd cards that have been bad, but yeah, a little bit concerning. But great as well, I suppose. It's always good. I like the fact that they're playing into new things that we haven't seen as well. So Masters of Evil, Sinister Six so far have been quite interesting. Hydra as well have been interesting. Avengers, I really liked the unique actions for each of the Avengers. They feel like a more well-rounded superheroes faction to me. So we've got Spider-Verse next. So Spider-Man, Power 5. I'm going after you play a card that has a special ability. This character gains +1 power until the end of the turn. Yeah, it's just a jacked up Black Trooper from Mega Troopers. So again, it's always a good sign when you can read the main King minion and you can tell what the faction's going to do. So it's a Mega Trooper style faction here, I'm guessing. 2 Ghost Spiders, Power 4, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, draw 1 and return the rest of the top of your bottom of your deck in any order. Okay. It's an objectively worse Minerva for Kree. You'd rather draw 2 than look at 3 and draw 1, specifically. Unless it was something really good, but your chances are you draw into the really good thing anyway, unless the 33% chance of being unlucky. So I suppose it's just solid. It's always nice to have a bit of draw in the faction. It's not a great power 4, you'd rather see that on a weaker power minion, but let's just carry on and see. Miles Morales, Power 3, before a base scores your character there, you may play this character there and give it -1 power until the end of the turn. Okay, so it's a weaker Shinobi. It relies on you having a character there, which is, for ninjas, for instance, you use a Shinobi to sweep in for 2nd or 3rd when you don't have a character there sometimes. So Yeah, it's objectively worse Shinobi. Spider-Man 2099. Power 2, ongoing, this character cannot be destroyed by other players' cards. Okay, I wasn't expecting to see that on this faction. I mean, I'm guessing it plays into Miles Morales and that you can fairly safely guarantee that you'll have a character there, but yeah, I wasn't expecting that. I suppose I was expecting more something similar to the Power Troopers Power 2 minion, which plays into specials. So far we haven't really seen much synergy with the Spider-Man. Okay, you've got the Miles Morales, but let's see what comes. So, comes with great responsibility. Play an extra character special. You may play this before a base scores, where you have a character. Play the extra character there. It gains -1 power until the end of the turn. Play an extra character. You may play this before a base scores, where you have a character. So it's Hidden Ninja. Again, it's a worse Hidden Ninja because it has the same effect as Miles Morales, which means you have to have a character there and it gains -1 power. So I'm getting a lot of ninja vibes here. Let's carry on. Spider Sense, draw 2 cards. Special only plays after a base scores where you have a character scores. Plays after a base. Oh, you may play this after a base where you have a character scores. Okay, that's a bit strange. It should probably say you may play this after a base scores where you have a character. Yeah, that's really unusual wording. Again, draw power, great. Why you necessarily want to play? Well, you can play it an extra card, I suppose, rather than playing it in your turn. If you happen to have it when a base is breaking. Spider-Verse Bond, character modifier, ongoing, this character has +1 power for each of the characters here. It's the same as encouragement power for Mythic Horses, a solid card in a faction that wants Swarm. I haven't necessarily seen Swarm in this faction, so maybe playing more into your other partner faction. Spider Reflexes, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, draw 1 and return the rest to the top and or bottom of the deck in any order. You may play an extra action. Okay, so it's almost the same as Ghost Spider, the only thing is you get the extra action play. So we're seeing a bit of deck manipulation here as well, which is interesting. Again, I wasn't really getting that kind of vibe from Spider-Man, but let's see what comes through still. We've got some action still to come. 2, the view from above. Say either character or action. Reveal cards from the top of your deck until you reveal a card of that type and draw it. Shuffle the rest into your deck. Okay, so you can play into some of your deck manipulation synergy. So, for instance, Spider Reflexes, look at the top 3, but it's not a deep dig. You don't want to be looking at the top 3, drawing 1 and then returning 2. That's not a great use playing into this card. It gives you some knowledge, but you maybe want to dig a bit deeper. Reveal cards from the top of your deck until... It's not great, that, to be honest. It's an action to draw a specific thing, to tutor for either a character or an action. It's not even a tutor because you don't get to choose it. Whereas we've seen from the Avengers, the Ghost Arrow, not the Ghost Arrow, whatever it's called, Hawkeye's Arrow, where you can draw 2 actions, which is way better. This is more flexible, but not great, but it's draw. Using a card to draw another card. Okay. Webbed Up, character modifier, ongoing, this character has -2 power and its abilities are cancelled. I was reading that, I was like, why would you put that on one of your characters? No, you put it on another player's character. So, okay. Okay, I like the ability to cancel. We've seen a lot of strong abilities already in this set. So, yes, having something that can stop abilities is very good. 2, with great power, give a character +3 power until the end of the turn, especially when plays before a base scores, give a character give a character there +2 power until the end of the turn instead of +3. So, yeah, again, more specials. Specials are good. We've not really seen the same quantity of specials that, for instance, Mega Troopers have, which really play into Black Trooper, aka Spider-Man's ability. So, it's nice. It's a solid +3, +2 before a base scores. You need that +2 power with all the power reduction that you've got in the faction, so save these for when you need to swing to first place on a base. Your Friendly Neighborhood Heroes, special, after a base scores. Place one of your characters there on top of his owner's deck. Yeah, okay, great. You play Spider-Man, you play that, you pick up Spider-Man, you put it back on top of that, you draw Spider-Man. Great. It's always good to keep your best cards around. So I like that. I like that with other factions as well. For instance, Master of Evil with Baron Zemo. Was it Baron Zemo? No. Yeah, Baron Zemo. Base scores, game 1 beat most counterparts. So I assume you can combo that, and I don't see any reason why you couldn't. You can combo that with this and put it on top of the deck rather than the bottom of the deck, which is great. Get your Baron Zemo value again. So I suppose so far this is the weakest faction we've seen. I don't necessarily know why they've chosen to give power reduction to some of these specials. Um, they've got card draw, which makes them good, and arguably this is kind of like a pseudo ninja replacement faction because we've seen Hidden Ninja, we've seen the Shinobis. They've got some power gain, which ninjas don't have. They've got some extra plays, which ninjas do have. Um, and they've got lots and lots of specials. So yeah, this kind of feels like we've kind of seen like a wizard replacement, a superheroes replacement, a ninjas replacement, which again that kind of gives me the vibes of don't really mix this with the main series games. And I've kind of always thought that in the back of my mind is keep this a standalone rather than mixing it. I'm getting into a whole different topic here, so I probably should just keep it to my original first thoughts about these factions. But yeah, this definitely seems like the weakest of the factions we've seen so far. It's quite strong in the context of Marvel Smash Up because this is the faction that focuses on specials, and specials are really great for swinging bases. And we haven't really seen any of the other factions play into specials to this extent, but it's definitely the weakest faction when thinking about the other factions in the game and what they can do. However, it is better than some of the other factions in the main game, so yeah, definitely weakest in this context. Probably a replacement for ninjas, I would say, if I was going to pick anything. Ultimates, the final one. So last but not least, how long has this been going? Almost an hour already. Wow, I did not expect to be talking about it for this long. Let me just move this and minimise that. Okay, I was expecting this to be a few minutes on each faction, like a half-hour video at tops maybe. But okay, I've enjoyed looking at this. You know, I haven't, as I say, I haven't really looked at the factions in any detail. This is quite a surprise for me as well. So as I say, this really is my kind of first initial thoughts about each of the factions. So hopefully you've agreed or disagreed with me on some of these, and you can let me know down below if you did manage to get all the way through to this point. If you did, I'm happy you did and stuck around. So final faction, we've got the Ultimates. So Captain Marvel, Power 5, talent, move this character to another base. All of your characters could be their game plus one power until the end of the turn. Okay, so it's a mobile Captain America, which is decent enough. Again, probably pair the two of them together to give a massive power boost. Not really a whole lot to say there. That's not a particularly exciting King Minion. Spectrum, Power 4, talent, move this character to another base. Okay, that's Cyclone for tornadoes. Very, very vanilla and boring ability there. It's nice to be able to move around and go to wherever you want to do, but when we've looked at some of the other Power 4 minions in this set, this is certainly one of the weaker. This is probably my biases about movement coming through, in fairness, and I need to try and be more objective about that. I generally don't like movement unless it's got a purpose, but we've seen a purpose here with gaining power, so potentially there's purpose, but this seems like a very underwhelming, weak talent for your Power 4. When you think about some of the Power 4s, so these two, for instance, again, gaining power, Sinister Six, so these two, okay, they're the King Minions, but, you know, they're very different Power 4 minions. This just seems quite vanilla and quite boring. America Chavez, Power 3, ongoing after another character moves to or from this base, this character gains plus one power until the end of the turn. Okay, so we're playing into Spectrum here. Spectrum moves on, you gain a power until the end of the turn. So you clearly want to put these down somewhere and then converge at one point to then give you a big power buff. So Captain Marvel, you move Captain Marvel on, they all gain a power, then they all gain an extra power from Captain Marvel, so it's basically like dropping your rotary slug thrower. So yeah, decent enough. And we're seeing, I'm already getting kind of tornado vibes here. Not seeing any specials yet, but this seems like the reason to move. Whereas with tornadoes, my criticism was always, what are they moving for? Whereas at least we're getting some kind of payoff here. Getting Explorer vibes actually as well. So Explorers are all about moving for getting power. So yeah, some kind of hybrid of Explorers and tornadoes here at this stage. 4 Blue Marvels, Power 2, ongoing after this character moves to another base, it gains plus 1 power until the end of the turn. Okay, you know, that's fine. We haven't really seen anything that lets you move your own minions yet, so I'm going to see a lot of actions that do that, I'm guessing. Aid from allies, base modify, draw a card. After you move a character here, draw a card. Good. Can't really say anything too, you know, too much more about that, I suppose. It's card draw, which is good. You gain a card draw straight off the bat, so you don't need to do anything, which is nice. It helps to cycle through your deck. After you move one or more characters to here, draw a card, so it's one or more, so that must mean when you move two at the same time, for instance, you only draw one rather than drawing one for each, which is worse, but it's still okay, I suppose. You want to make sure that obviously any movement you do have, you don't do mass movement unless they've got mass movement. I don't know. One coordinated attack, choose a base, move up to 3 of your characters there from other bases to there. They gain +1 power in the turn. Okay, that's good. It doesn't say choose a base to move from. It's choose a base to move to, and you can move your minions from any base to there, other bases rather than just one specific base, which is nice. They gain +1 power again, which is nice. It feels like Mounties as well. Mounties do something similar, don't they, in terms of movement and to gain power. So yeah, getting some kind of hybrid of Mounties, Explorers, and Tornadoes at this stage. Cosmic Knowledge, placing a number of cards from your hand on the bottom of the deck, then draw one more card than you place there. Okay, I like that. They're playing into some deck manipulation strategy as well, so placing specific cards on the bottom of your deck. We haven't really seen anything that interacts with the bottom of the deck yet, though. Well, we're not going to see it probably. So this is designed really to play into a partner faction then that isn't in this game, really, to get maximum value out of that. So something like Granny's, as I keep on saying, you place your minions at the bottom and then draw them as well with Matriarch. But yeah, it's nice, you get extra value, you draw an extra card. Again, card draw is always nice, and it's another faction, so every faction has had card draw. So they really want to make a fast game, a fast, powerful game. That's the kind of vibe I'm getting from the whole expansion. 2 first to arrive, play an extra character on a base where you have no characters. Okay, so you move your characters off a base, you then play a character down there, you move it off that base to join your other characters. So a nice little bit of synergy here. With all your movement, you're almost certainly going to have a chance to play this almost whenever you like, really. So just extra plays, always nice. Heroic Landing, move any number of your characters to other bases, so that's the same as X marks the spot for Explorers. I think it's called that. I can just remember it's got a map with a plane and a big X. So yeah, this is your big card, I suppose. Plays into lots of your other things as well. So yeah, another nice little synergy card there. 2 power and speed, one of your characters gains +2 power until the end of the turn. You may move it to another base. So yeah, we're starting to see now, playing into these blue marbles, where you can really ramp up the power of these blue marbles. So if you play power and speed with 1 blue marble, it's a power 5 minion, which is great. That's loads of extra power. So again, another common theme seems to be, apart from Spider-Verse, is power. So reducing power on bases or increasing the power of your stuff. So yeah, I like that. Finally, Scramble, move one of your characters to another base, smashing your players before a base scores. So that is the same as, it's one of either picked up over the rainbow or the other card that Tornadoes have, so it's the same as one of them. So they do have one of the Tornadoes one. So yeah, this again, I suppose my general sense is this expansion is very powerful. There's lots of card draw. It's a fast expansion, very fast expansion, and I'm kind of worried that these factions might just blow away any pairing from the main game, because the power level seems to be, they seem to have powered them up so that some normal factions become more obsolete, I suppose. So Avengers, superheroes, Kree, wizards, Masters of Evil, even like aliens. They have way more VP gaining cards than aliens do. Although they still have a place, because I think aliens are amazing. But S.H.I.E.L.D, similar-ish to robots and mythic horses. Probably not better than either of them, but still very good, up there with them. Sinister Six, they're not overly similar to anything. They're quite new. Spider-Verse, ninjas, and Ultimates, kind of tornadoes. So I'm getting kind of replacement vibes from all of this. But again, as I say, I think I like what they've done. I really like Sinister Six. I really like Masters of Evil. I like Hydra. I like Avengers. I like some of the new mechanics they brought in there. This isn't just carbon copy, cut and paste of existing expansions we've seen. It is something new. It's powerful. It's fast. That concerns me a little bit. I'm yet to play it, so my thoughts may change when I actually do get to play it and get a chance to see some of these factions, not just with their own other factions from Marvel, but with factions from the main game, and I get to kind of gauge their power it would be interesting to do some kind of testing as well. So maybe doing something like Dinosaur Kree against Dinosaur Wizards and seeing over the course of a number of games if my theory about Kree replacing Wizards and doing it with other pairings and stuff as well, just seeing if things like that, if they do actually power creep them. But yeah, as I say, hopefully you enjoyed this. This was, as I say, it was my first chance to really look at all of the factions as a whole. I did see some spoilers. However, spoilers of certain characters don't really give you an indication of what the faction does. You have to kind of look at the faction as a whole to really get a sense of what they do, where their powers are, what they might not be so good at. And card draw is usually one where some factions at least aren't good at card draw, but we've not really seen that here. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed that. As I say, this ended up being a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. I talked way more than I thought, but hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully you enjoyed my first kind of initial reaction to it. I may well do more Smash Up Marvel stuff in the future when the expansion does actually drop. I don't know when it's going to get a UK release. I think people who've got it already have got it in America from their local game stores, so whether they got an early wave of the product and then the main batch is held up in kind of like international shipment issues, I don't know. But hopefully when I get to play it, I may decide whether to do more kind of Smash Up Marvel stuff. I suppose it depends. I don't want to be carbon copying what other people are doing. If there's more detailed faction reviews, then I'm not going to just do my own faction reviews. But yeah, this is kind of my initial thoughts, what I think is strong, what I think is weak, what I think might be good pairings off the bat. I suppose if I was ranking them, this isn't a tier list of any description, but I would say Masters of Evil are definitely my number one. They seem very strong, very unique, very different. Number two, I haven't really played with Sinister Six to understand how strong this actually is, but it feels very efficient. So probably Sinister Six. Number three would maybe be Avengers. I don't know, I said it earlier on, I can't remember where I put them earlier on, but Avengers or Kree, very close, 3 and 4. Hydra number 5, S.H.I.E.L.D number 6, Ultimate 7, Spider-Verse 8. I don't like the power reduction on these cards. It feels a bit unnecessary in this expansion, but I suppose we'll wait and see. But that's it. I've had enough. I'm going to go get something to eat. So hope you enjoyed that. And with that being said, I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.